All right, let's talk about the Silk Roads. Now, you've definitely heard the name, right? But between 1200 and 1450, this ancient network just exploded. It went into total overdrive, and it reshaped the world in ways we're still feeling today. So the big question is, what was the spark? What lit the fuse that made all this happen? Let's dive in and find out.
Okay, first things first, we've got to clear up a huge misconception right off the bat. When I say Silk Road, what do you picture? Probably, a single, long, dusty path winding through the desert, right? Well, the reality is, you kind of have to just throw that image out the window completely.
Yeah, the reality was just so much bigger, so much more complex. A better way to think about it is less like a road and more like the world's first internet. Seriously, it was this massive web of interconnected routes. And it wasn't just moving silk, it was moving culture, brand new ideas, technologies, everything, all across continents. And this amazing mixing and spreading of stuff, that's a process we call cultural diffusion.
So, what exactly caused this huge surge in activity on the network? Well, it really boils down to two big things: some incredible new ideas about how to do business, and some major upgrades to how stuff was actually moved around. Let's start with the money side of things.
You have to imagine what it was like for a merchant back then. Before this period, doing business meant lugging these incredibly heavy chests of coins for thousands of miles. I mean, talk about slow, risky, and just super inefficient. But then this revolutionary idea starts to take hold. People came up with new financial tools that were way lighter, way safer, and they weren't based on heavy metal. They were based on a concept that was even more powerful: trust.
And a perfect example of this was something called flying money, which was this brilliant innovation out of China. Here's how it worked. A merchant could drop off their heavy coins in one city and get a simple piece of paper, basically an IOU. Then they'd travel, and they could exchange that note for cash hundreds of miles away. All of a sudden, money can move as fast as a messenger on a horse, not a slow, heavily guarded cart. It was a total game changer, just greasing the wheels of commerce. Now, this idea was so good, it started to spread. Inspired by what was happening in China, European banking houses developed a very similar system they called the bill of exchange. The logic was exactly the same. Deposit your gold here, get a piece of paper, and withdraw it way over there. It was all about turning wealth from this clunky, physical burden into a light, portable promise. And this is what allowed trade to really, truly scale up.
But, these financial innovations were kind of like the software. And that software isn't much use if you don't have the hardware to run it on. I mean, what good is a great credit system if your silk and spices can't even make it from point A to point B safely? And that brings us to one of the most important pieces of hardware: the caravanserai. The best way to picture these is like fortified motels or service stations for the ancient world. They were these inns strategically built about a day's camel journey from each other, giving merchants a crucial place to rest, get new supplies, and most importantly, stay safe.
And they really had two main jobs. On the outside, you had these high, secure walls and guards to protect all that valuable cargo from bandits. Super important. But on the inside, wow, they were these incredible cultural hubs. Just imagine merchants from Persia, India, and China all sitting together, sharing stories, exchanging news, debating scientific ideas, talking about their religions. These weren't just roadside inns. They were basically incubators for a new, emerging global culture.
Sometimes the tech that changes the world is surprisingly simple. Case in point, the camel saddle. It sounds minor, right? But new frame saddle designs meant a single camel could carry way more weight than before. And just think through the logic of that. More goods on each animal means your costs go down, which means your profits go way up. This one little piece of engineering didn't just make trade a bit easier, it made it exponentially more profitable. It opened up whole new markets that you just couldn't have reached before.
Okay, so what happens when you put all this together? You've got better finance, you've got safer routes, you've got more efficient transport. What's the result? Well, you get these massive ripple effects, and one of the most obvious ones was the explosive growth of brand new, super powerful trading cities. Let's look at a city like Kashgar. It was just in the perfect spot, a natural oasis right where two major branches of the Silk Road came together. It even had a river, which meant water and food, gold in the desert. So as trade started booming, Kashgar just blew up. It went from being a simple little rest stop to this massive, bustling market city, and eventually a major center for Islamic learning. And then you have Samarkand, which was maybe the ultimate melting pot.
It was also at a key crossroads, and it became this truly cosmopolitan hub. Merchants poured in from all over Eurasia, bringing their beliefs and customs with them. And what's amazing is that archaeologists have found evidence of Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and Islam all coexisting, all right there in one vibrant, buzzing city.
So this wasn't just about new cities popping up. This boom in trade was reshaping entire economies. But, and this is a big but, this incredible new level of interconnectedness also had a dark side, a really devastating unintended consequence.
Let's go back to China for a second. The demand for Chinese silk across the world was so huge that it created this powerful economic engine. You had whole regions of peasants stopping their farming of food to focus entirely on producing silk for export. And all the money from those exports would then flow back into China, which helped grow other industries like iron and steel. It was like a very early version of industrialization happening centuries before the Industrial Revolution we all know. So just picture it. You have goods, money, ideas, and religions all flowing faster and further than at any other point in human history. It's remarkable. But this network, it was a double-edged sword, because it carried something else along with all that good stuff. The plague. Yeah, the very same routes that were making merchants rich and spreading new ideas also turned out to be perfect highways for disease. All that increased traffic, the constant movement of people, of animals, it let germs and viruses spread with absolutely terrifying speed. And this led directly to one of the most devastating pandemics in all of human history, the bubonic plague. It was the dark, tragic downside of a newly connected world.
So let's start to bring this all together. It's pretty clear that this period, from 1200 to 1450, was just a hugely important moment in world history, and it was all driven by these key innovations that basically put the Silk Roads on steroids. So really, here's the whole story in a nutshell. On the one side, you've got the causes, those clever financial ideas like flying money, and the practical upgrades like caravanserai and better saddles. And on the other side, you've got all the effects, both the good and the bad. You get the rise of these amazing new cities, huge economic changes, this incredible mixing of cultures, and of course, the devastating spread of disease. And all of this leaves us with a pretty big idea to chew on, right? It just goes to show how things that seem small, a slip of paper that stands in for money, a slightly better way to load up a camel, can literally change the entire world. And it really makes you wonder, what are the small innovations happening right now, today, that might be setting the stage for the massive world-changing transformations of tomorrow?